What if I told you the most recognizable weapon on Earth, a rifle seen in every major conflict of the last century, was designed by a wounded tank mechanic in a Soviet hospital bed? No laboratories, no corporate funding, no million-dollar budget, just necessity, grit, and genius. Meet the AK-47, a rifle so reliable and so devastatingly effective that it redefined warfare. This rifle is fired through mud, sand, and snow, but never failed. Today, we'll uncover how it really works and why, after 75 years, is it still the most feared gun on the planet. Before we start, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss our deep dives into the world's most legendary military tech. The story of the AK-47 begins not in victory, but in devastation. In the aftermath of World War II, the Soviet Union had survived one of the bloodiest conflicts in history. But survival came with lessons, and one stood out: firepower wins wars. During the war, Soviet troops faced the German Sturmgewehr 44, the world's first true assault rifle. It could fire fully automatic, used an intermediate cartridge, and dominated mid-range combat. By comparison, Soviet rifles like the Mosin Nagant were slow, bolt-action relics. Soviets needed something new, fast-firing, durable, and easy to use. Enter Mikhail Kalashnikov, a young tank sergeant recovering from wounds sustained in battle. As he lay in his hospital bed listening to fellow soldiers complain about their unreliable weapons, an idea began forming: a rifle that wouldn't jam and would serve the soldier faithfully. Working in modest workshops with limited tools, Kalashnikov refined his design. He wasn't an engineer, but he was a soldier, and that made all the difference. He understood what mattered in war: simplicity, strength, and survival. In 1947, after years of testing and redesigns, his creation was approved. The Automat Kalashnikova model. 1947, the AK-47 was born. The genius of the AK-47 lies not in cutting-edge innovation, but in restraint. Kalashnikov didn't overdo it. He stripped everything down to what mattered most. At its core, the AK uses a long-stroke gas piston system, a robust mechanism that cycles the bolt using energy from the fired cartridge. The system channels excess gas from each shot to push a piston connected to the bolt carrier, ejecting the old casing, loading a new round, and cocking the hammer. It's a design that tolerates punishment. The clearances are generous, allowing mud, sand, and grime to move without locking the action. Where Western rifles demand precision machining and tight tolerances, the AK embraces forgiveness. That's why it can fire after being dropped in a swamp or frozen overnight. The parts? Minimal and massive. The AK has fewer than 10 major moving parts. No delicate springs or fragile pins. Every piece is rugged and easy to strip down. Soldiers can disassemble and reassemble it blindfolded in under a minute. Kalashnikov once said, "Everything that is complex is unnecessary, and everything that is necessary must be simple." That's not just philosophy, but it's engineering brilliance. The Soviet Army didn't want a showpiece. It wanted a workhorse, a rifle that could be mass-produced cheaply, used by conscripts with minimal training, and endure the chaos of combat. So every detail served a purpose. The stamped steel receiver simplified production. The 7.6 2 by 39mm cartridge delivered hard-hitting power without brutal recoil, perfect for automatic fire. The curved magazine naturally followed the cartridge's taper, feeding rounds reliably even in dirt and grit. It wasn't the lightest nor the most accurate, but it was unstoppable. Soldiers could drop it in a trench, hose it off, and get back to firing. Contrast that with the early M16, which demanded constant cleaning and specific ammunition to avoid jamming. U.S. troops in Vietnam often swapped their rifles for captured AKs because the AK simply worked. In war, dependability isn't a luxury, rather it's survival. And that's where the AK earned its legend. If you're loving this deep dive into legendary weapons, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Which rifle or machine gun should we break down next? Would you pick the MG3, the Barrett .50 cal, or maybe something unexpected? Let's see which one earns the next How It Works spotlight. Now back to the AK47 and how a single design conquered the entire world. To the untrained eye, the AK looks crude, wood, steel, and rivets. But behind that simplicity lies meticulous logic. The rotating bolt locks firmly into the trunnion, ensuring safe firing under immense pressure. The gas piston, mounted above the barrel, keeps the recoil impulse straight, improving control. The safety lever doubles as a dust cover, shielding internals from grime. Even its ergonomics, though not modern by today's standards, were built around practicality. The paddle-style magazine release is ambidextrous, the charging handle oversized for gloved hands, the selector easily manipulated with muscle memory, and it evolved without losing its soul. The AKM, introduced in 1959, used lighter stamped steel and a slanted muzzle brake for recoil control. Later came the AK-74, chambered in 5.45 millimeters for higher velocity and accuracy. Modern AK-12s now sport polymer furniture and rails, but at heart, they're still the same machine. No matter the variant, the blueprint endures proof that when you get the fundamentals right, you don't need to start over. So, how does the AK-47 actually work? The cycle begins the moment you pull the trigger. As the trigger releases the hammer, it snaps forward, striking the firing pin and igniting the primer. The cartridge explodes, sending the bullet down the barrel at supersonic speed. As it travels, a small amount of gas is diverted through a port above the barrel. This gas drives the long-stroke piston rearward with force. That motion pushes the bolt carrier back, unlocking the bolt and extracting the spent casing. The empty shell is flung clear as the return spring compresses. A heartbeat later, the spring drives the carrier forward again, feeding a new round from the curved magazine straight into the chamber. In a fraction of a second, the rifle resets, locked, loaded, and ready to fire again. It's a mechanical rhythm, raw and well built, the heartbeat of a design that never quits. If this breakdown has you seeing the AK-47 in a whole new light, drop a comment. What do you think keeps it so timeless? Is it the simplicity, the reliability, or something deeper? If you want more behind the scenes, looks at iconic machines, subscribe and turn on the bell. We've got more How It Works episodes coming your way. Now, let's bring it all together. Why this rifle is more than a weapon. It's a legacy. First, durability. The AK was designed for dirt, dust, and disaster. It doesn't demand delicate care. Instead, it simply works. From frozen tundras to scorching deserts, it fires when others falter, earning trust through resilience. Next, affordability. Its body is built from stamped steel, not intricate milled parts. That simplicity made it cheap to produce and nearly impossible to contain. In the hands of nations and rebels alike, it became the great equalizer. Finally, adaptability. Over decades, it's evolved into countless forms. Compact carbines, heavy squad rifles, and modernized hybrids, all sharing the same rugged DNA. This trifecta turned the AK from a rifle into a global legacy. While NATO rifles chase new technologies and generations, the AK's evolution is steady and deliberate. Why reinvent perfection when it already thrives everywhere? Even modern armies that once dismissed it now respect it. The AK's survival in today's conflicts isn't nostalgia, but it's proof of unmatched design and purpose. Kalashnikov never patented his design. He earned no fortune, only recognition. Late in life, he expressed regret that his rifle had become so widespread, yet his intention was always defense, not destruction. He once said, "I sleep well." It is the politicians who are guilty, not the designers. In 2013, when he passed away, soldiers and engineers alike mourned not just the man, but the mind, one that turned necessity into timeless function. Today, his statue stands in Moscow, rifle in hand, overlooking a world forever changed by his creation. The AK-47 isn't just a weapon, but it's a story of survival and simplicity, born from necessity and perfected by time. 8 decades on, it still stands unchallenged as a design so pure, it outlasted empires and reshaped battlefields. If you enjoyed uncovering the genius behind this legend, hit like, subscribe, and join our How It Works series, where every machine has a story, and every story reveals the power of design. Because true legends don't fade, they fire on.